Adam is now with us. Hello, Adam.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. I've just did a busy day of shooting yesterday, so a little bit tired, but yeah, all in the name of good cause of promoting efficient heating.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. I know you are a busy man, and for those of you that do not, in fact, hang on a minute, you've got what, 63, over 63,000 followers on YouTube.
Yeah, that's right.
And if you are joining here and you are not one of the many subscribers on your YouTube channel, then before I go into this, I highly recommend that you go and check out their Heat Geek YouTube. It is full packed with information. And if, like me, you only really know the basics, then it is a wonderful place to start. Um, but in the meantime, we have got you for 30 precious minutes. So I have got some questions from you. We've been promoting this all week. We've had people messaging in. And so I'm just going to go straight for it. And I
Sure.
guess I'm coming at this from an almost dummies perspective. You remember those classic books in the 80s? And so we're looking at this as a heat pumps for dummies. So first question I've got, and I've gone in with this one because I think it can cover everything, which is I just don't get it.
So we're talking heat pumps specifically,
Yeah,
right?
heat pumps,
Okay.
yes.
I think like the main reason that anyone should move to heat pumps isn't to do with carbon, although that's the main benefit for the planet. You can't have one person saving the planet. It needs to be a systemic thing, right? Only reason you put in a heat pump is to save money. It has to make sense financially, fiscally. So, and the way they can save you money is by using less energy. So you pay less electricity bill essentially because they use
Mhm.
electricity rather than gas. And I think that the hardest sort of concept for people to understand is that these things are fiscally over 100% efficient. Now, the physicists among us, if there are any, would say you can't have over 100% efficiency. That's insane. Well, you can if you're talking fiscally, because for every unit of electricity you're purchasing, we can generate between 3 and 5 kilowatts or units of heat. And that's because heat pumps don't generate heat for your home. They
Yeah.
move heat from the outside environment to the inside environment. So just moving the heat. So it's called a heat pump. And so we're using that technology, and it's exactly the same thing as your fridge does. It moves the heat from inside the fridge to the outside of the fridge. It actually warms your kitchen a little bit. We're doing the opposite of that. We're warming your home and we're trying to cool down the outside atmosphere. Yeah, using that very proven technology. Um, uh, we're trying to capitalize that to save you money every
Yeah.
month.
I
And
guess that might actually, what you've just said there will probably lead on to another question which came in, which is the way the heat pump heats your radiators different to how a traditional boiler does it?
So heat's heat at the end of the day. So no, you could answer this many different ways, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's the same fundamentally. However, it's probably different from what you're used to. Now, if you're heating with a gas boiler or you're heating with a heat pump, both of them, you're actually much better off heating in a low and slow fashion. And what I mean by that is rather than having your radiators at 70, 80, 90 degrees,
Hmm.
burning hot, unsafe for
Yeah.
2 hours in the morning and then maybe 2 hours in the evening and letting that sort of ride out the rest of the day, that's actually much less efficient. That's the same as the analogy I always use, the car analogy. Imagine two cars driving from where I am in Surrey up to Scotland, and one car's going 90 miles an hour, stop, 90 miles an hour, stop, and another car's doing 30. They'll actually reach there at the same time, but the one that's doing accelerating, stopping, that will use more energy. It's much less economic. So you're better off turning down flow temperatures, using what we call weather compensation, maybe I'll explain that in a bit, and just heating your house gently and just keep it a constant, 21, 22, whatever you want it at. Just keep
Yeah.
it that the whole time. Even if you're popping out for 2 hours, you're going to have to put so much more energy in to catch up what you lost. You're not actually saving money because you have to catch the house back up. And when you
So
do
that
that,
that goes against
right.
then that classic argument, doesn't it? Of people saying no, it is the right thing to leave it on low, leave it on constantly, generating it a better pace almost to frequency. with just that low heat?
It's the Energy Savings Trust actually have quite a lot to answer for here. They did some studies before we even had condensing boilers, which showed that was better. And yes, that was better at that time. But since then, we have condensing boilers which operate much more efficiently at low temperatures, and they're still spouting the advice. Unfortunately, Money Savings Expert also re-touted their advice. My Energy Saving Expert has since updated their website and now linked back to us as the opposing argument, and we're the opposing argument because we represent what's available here and now.
Yeah.
Any boiler after 2005 and any heat pump, you're better off low and slow. We've got some detailed videos on this on our YouTube channel. If you're a user, a homeowner and not an engineer, look for our consumer series. A lot more broken down, simplified explanations of the physics. But there's lots of people out there who experience this. And then, what the other thing that we make sure people we request them to have would be weather compensation, which measures the outside temperature, and it lowers the flow temperatures as low as it needs to be to get your house up to temperature, depending on the temperature outside. So if it's super cold outside, we can make your radiators warmer. And if it's warmer outside, they don't need to be as hot. So let's not make them as hot. Let's not waste the energy. But importantly, it's actually less to do for the homeowner. I'm saying all these words, weather compensation, flow temperatures. You don't need to know any of this. This is just, as you're asking the question, there's the answer. Really, you're playing around with the thermostat much less. Because it's not going hot, cold, and you have to get the times exactly right for when you come in, come out. It's just comfortable the whole time. You play around with your heating way less, and you're a lot more comfortable, and it saves money. And we additionally guarantee the efficiency of the heat pump as well, or we go and do whatever's required to your home to make sure the efficiency reaches a certain level. So we're so confident in it, and we've done so many now. We put our money where our mouth is, and I think the rest of the industry will be moving that way very soon as well.
So I'm going to ask this question. I mean, I work for Castrads. Obviously, we manufacture cast iron radiators. So do cast iron radiators work with a heat pump? I want both. That's what one of our followers requested. Now, I am not poo-pooing steel radiators by all means. They are in a lot of properties in this country. But I guess we know they work with heat pumps. What is the benefit of getting cast iron over a steel panel radiator, for example?
Well, I have cast iron radiators, and I love heating, so that might be a reason. The reason I got them is because I have a Victorian house, and there's no better looking. So does the vast majority of the population, Edwardian Victorian, and they just look a lot better, right? They suit the property. That's number one. If we want to go into the science, they do suit low and slow better. They take longer to warm up,
of course,
but importantly, they stay warmer for longer by the same proportionate amount. And what that creates is this kind of buffer. So your house is a much more steady temperature the whole time. It's not spiking up or dropping. You can actually increase efficiency and comfortability. We're talking relatively small amounts, but there's no downside, that's for sure. It's only increased improvement. And it also increases the system water volume, which increases the thermal mass. Again, some science in there. This lowers the peaks and troughs in the flow temperature and increases efficiency. I could go into mega detail on all these things, and I do on our channel, but I'm sure some people might nod off if I go too deep.
Well, you've just mentioned, obviously, you live in a period property. I myself live in a period property. A lot of the same question, actually. Well, there's a lot of people saying, are new builds easier to deal with as far as, are they easier than a period property when it comes to heat pumps? And actually, no, let's go with that one. Let's go with the period property versus the new build.
So I'd say, to speak for the industry as a whole, it's easier to do a new build property because anyone could throw it in. However, for those who are, the industry is getting better all the time, right? And for those who are actually good at doing heat pumps, I'd say older properties are easier to do and get high efficiencies of 450% or 4.5 Scott, as we call it. And the reason for that is new builds actually have quite low thermal mass. That means the minute the sun shines in through the window, the temperature goes up in the house, because it's
Yep.
called solar gain, or you're running a hairdryer, as I did this morning, as you can see, not very accurately, and the room temperature goes up. So you've got a lot more to kind of control. So generally, they're actually difficult to heat, no matter what the heat source is. This isn't about the heat source; it's about the home. Newer homes just are less comfortable because of this lack of thermal mass. Old homes are so much more comfortable because the internal walls are made from brick. They can soak up excess heat to maintain temperature. And if the house room temperature ever dips because you open a window or whatever, those bricks re-release and just maintain the temperature the whole time. So I'd actually say, contrary to popular belief, older homes are much easier to heat to a comfortable level. Comfort's number one, right? Running cost is second.
Yep.
The new builds. For us, our average, I think 95% of our installations are in older properties, pre 60, and mainly Victorian Edwardian. And our average efficiency is 4.4, 450% or 440% efficiency. So that's for every 1 unit of electricity, we're returning 4.4 kilowatts of heat, which makes it way cheaper to run than a gas boiler. And we monitor every single one of our installations.
Yep.
So, this can be seen with it. And that's hot water and heating, by the way. That's not just the heating. Hot water was seen as less efficient because you have to get to high temperatures.
Is there such a thing then as an unsuitable property for any type of heat pump?
No, this is kind of, it's a myth that's grown off the back of when heat pumps were kind of starting to gain in popularity. Typical installers who were installing gas boilers were struggling to get them to work in period properties because they were using old methods like on-off thermostat and not using weather compensation, etc. But yet it was still working in new builds. So they could still do it in a terrible way in a new build and come up with an okay installation. Maybe they get 300% efficiency, which I don't think is very good still. But that means it's not like awful. It's not going to cost them loads. It's not going to break as much, or it's still going to keep them warm. However, the reality is once you start installing them properly, they literally go anywhere. You could heat a shed on the moon with a heat pump. You just have to design it right. And I say design, I use that term loosely. It's about unlearning poor practices that we've accidentally baked in over the years as an industry. This is why the most important factor, if you are going to get a heat pump installation, isn't a thermostat you pick or the heat pump you pick or anything like that. That's way down the list. The number one thing is who's installing it. That's what makes and breaks the heat pump. It's not. The question has never been, do heat pumps work? Yeah, heat pumps work. Supermarkets use them. And they're normally warm in the warm areas and cold in the cold areas. All office blocks are pretty much heated by them. I'm heated by one there. That's a heat pump. It's exactly the same. And the question has been, actually, are installers capable of installing? And people are mixing the two. They're saying heat pumps don't work. What they mean is, a installer couldn't install a heat pump in that property. Well, that's correct. But if you did the training, you probably could.
So that leads me to then, if one of our followers or somebody out there has had a heat pump installed and they're not happy with it or it hasn't gone to plan, and I've met you in real life, I've heard the motto of it's not the heat pump, it's the installer. So if somebody's in a situation where their heat pump isn't working as expected, can they then come to you guys and say, look, this has happened to me, this is where I got it from, can you help put me back on the right track?
They can. It will be down to the independent installer in the area. We have a lookup table. If you search on Google, find a Heat Geek, you'll find like a map, and it'll tell you your local Heat Geeks. They're all very busy though because they're the best heating engineers in the UK. So you're going to have to go through that. We're training at a rapid rate, so it's getting filled up all the time. So don't be disheartened if the first answers they can't get out for X amount of time. I think this is a thing that's dying out. Like the industry are watching and listening, the heating industry, and they're learning, and everyone's improving. So yes, they can do that, but there are other good heating, companies out there who might not be on our list.
So don't be scared off by any horror stories you might read in the press on certain websites of newspapers.
They're normally very easy to fix, to be quite honest. And so again, we've got consumer video. I forget the specific title of it. Something like commissioning your system, or 3 tips to improve your system efficiency. there's actually very simple tips in there that you could probably implement to have a rapid change immediately. And they're just settings that you can play around with. So that could be cheaper or quicker. However, do be careful changing settings, because you might go one way that might be difficult to go back, and then you will have to wait for an engineer to come out. So word of caution there. So yes, you can. If someone had an installation through us, we would obviously make sure that, I mean, the Heat Geeks would go back anyway. We'd make sure they're characterful people. They have to go through character tests before they come on board. They're going to be there and reveling in the challenge anyway. If there was something, I don't know, they broke a leg or something, God forbid, we have 2,000 heating engineers up and down the country who've taken our training, and we can send any one of those anytime to just go fix a problem and give you heating. So it's not a problem we have in-house, but definitely recognise the problem from outside and the rest of the industry. And that's not self-promotion, that's just the truth.
So if there's somebody out there that's contemplating having a heat pump, but they're not quite ready to make the jump yet, is there anything that they can do now to future-proof their home for when they're eventually ready to make the change? So if, for example, you know, we have somebody come into our showroom and they say to us, you know, we're interested in having cast iron radiators. That's something we want to get now. We're not 100% sure on whether we want to have a heat pump yet. It might be something we do in the future. It might not. Any suggestions you can put forward?
If you're going to swap radiators, whenever you swap radiators, fit the biggest radiators possible. Whether you get a heat pump or not, that will always save you energy. It will run at lower temperature, and a modern boiler will condense more. Again, YouTube video on that if you're interested. And that will extract more heat out of the gas and blow less heat out of the flue outside into the atmosphere, and put more heat into your house. So bigger radiators are always going to benefit you. A common myth is that you have to super insulate your home or have all the loft insulation. It's just not true. But it's always going to save you money. So it will increase efficiency a bit of a gas boiler or heat pump still, but it will, more importantly, lower the overall load. That's really where you're saving the energy, right? That's just, you know, normal insulation. So that's the first two things. The other thing I would say is, if you're inclined to do so, is to lower down your flow temperature from your boiler. Normally there's a little radiator symbol on there. Start experimenting specifically when it's cold. Do you need it up at 70 degrees flow temperature? Actually, I think you'll find that you're much more comfortable when the radiators aren't pulsing out this convection heat, and we're using radiant heat. Lower temperature uses more radiant heat rather than convected. It's a much more comfortable room if you heat it in that way. So start lowering the flow temperature. If you find on a really cold day when it's in the minuses, you're still keeping the home warm, and you are, say, 55 degrees flow temperature, you're way more than capable to have a heat pump with pretty much no radiator changes now, right today. You don't need to do any insulation or any radiators or anything. So I suppose they're the top things: flow temperature, and if you're swapping radiators, always go as big as possible for every room. Almost as big as possible, I mean as big as you're happy to look at.
Yes, it's definitely something that scares people when they come into us and they just have this vision that they're going to have to have, you know, humongous cast iron radiators that are completely going to overshadow a room.
This is another thing that's come off the back of lack of training, because perhaps they weren't setting the controls up, or the hot water's less efficient or something. So quite often this has been overcompensated by big triple radiators. I'd never fit triple radiators. I think they look hideous. Not the cast iron ones; they look amazing. But,
no, I know which ones you mean. Yes,
I just hate them. You just don't need any of that. You just Type 22, which is a normal looking radiator, is more than adequate for 99% of houses, provided, you know, the width is and the height's sort of sensible size. So that's it. There's not, just worry less, basically. Again, all of these worries come from the fact that engineers who were doing the right thing, trying to move into it, hadn't quite mastered their craft yet. We have a collection of engineers that have, and you don't need to worry about any of these things, because you don't need massive radiators, you don't need super duper insulation, although I would still advise it. And you could still get super high efficiencies, which are guaranteed to save you money, provided you get the right tariff, or, you know, whatever.
Would you be so kind as to explain the difference between a air source heat pump and a water source heat pump?
Okay, so there's three types of air source heat pump really. There's air source, ground source, water source. Air source is just extracting. They all use solar energy essentially. Really, if you sort of take it back to the original source. Air source literally takes the heat energy out of the air. Even at -3, there's still heat energy in the air. Actual zero is, or absolute zero as it's known, is -273 degrees. At -272 degrees, there's still a degree of heat. We've only called it that because that's the freezing point of water. So it just literally blows a fan over a coil of copper, and that extracts the heat. So you're using the air or stripping the heat out of the air to pump into the house. So that's air source. On water source, instead of blowing air over this coil of it's got refrigerant gas in it, which is the same thing you have in a fridge. You dunk that in water, really. Ideally, you want it in moving water, so you've got replenishment of fresh air. It doesn't freeze something up. And that's water, so you're extracting the heat energy out of the water. If you did it in too small a little pond, the pond would freeze over. You're actually cooling down the water. So if you have a great lake, you probably wouldn't freeze it at all. It might not even drop at all. Or if you had a flowing river, they wouldn't really be noticeable because the energy would be replaced. And then ground source, just one where you just drill straight down. And that still uses solar energy because we're still in the Earth's crust when we drill down 100 meters. That's being heated by the sun, not from geothermal, from the mantle below.
Yeah, okay. So we've got just under 5 minutes left. So I thought this would be a good opportunity for people who don't know who Heat Geek are. If you want to sell yourself for a couple of minutes. I know you can do that, Adam.
So Heat Geek originally we're here to dispel myths in the heating industry and help everyone just get their systems more efficient. And it's essentially free because it's a YouTube channel. In fact, we don't even have ads turned on, so we are totally free. And there's loads of free advice out there. But we also train heating engineers to become the best heating engineers, the most efficient heating engineers they can be. We have a collection of the best heating engineers in the UK. And as part of that, we install heat pumps with guaranteed efficiencies. Which link back to savings. As I said earlier on, our average efficiency is 440%, which could save you anywhere between £300 and £1,500 a year, which can go towards paying for the installation. And that's our aim, is to get this, we say fiscal first, to get this balance right between savings and the initial outlay of the installation. And all of it's guaranteed by us. So for us, it's all about promoting the individual local installer, reinvesting in the economy, because they're the ones that really care. With bigger companies, there are amazing bigger companies out there, but I think when it's, imagine it being 5 o'clock on a Friday, and to really get that last bit of efficiency out, you could do a connection here with a pipework connection over there. The local installer with his dad's shirt on, he'll always go that extra mile because they want the good reputation, right? And we're here to promote them and support them. So we've got their passion to do the best job possible, because those little decisions for a heat pump, they come out in actual good, big savings. They're important little things that we want to get right. So we have their passion backed by our size. We're a big company now. We're venture backed. We guarantee the installations for them. We've done hundreds now. We're monitoring them all. They're all going really well, so we haven't had to test the guarantee yet. But we haven't even been near the guarantee. Is almost like it's just not really needed for us. It's for the confidence, great. But these heating engineers are so passionate about what they do and want that reputation to be good so much that they're doing that for us, really. So that's why the guarantee is now free. It was charged for initially in case things didn't work out, but we're just so confident that we will back it. I guess
for those people that aren't aware of it, there's the government scheme, isn't there, that's come into play where your radiators, is it both heat pump and radiators that are VAT free?
It's seen as a package. So when you go and get a new installation, they will pay £7,500 towards your installation. So if you're not claiming that £7,500 to invest in your property, you're missing out on £7,500 that you've been paying tax towards, that other people are taking. So I would advise people to it's only guaranteed for 3 years too. You've got 3 years to go and take the £7,500 back that you've already paid in. and and once it's gone, it's gone. It may be phased out, it may not be, I don't know.
Yeah.
So if you're going to get an upgrade, now is the time.
And it's absolutely a win-win situation, I think, especially for a customer that's coming to Castrads, where, it's going to be costing a large amount of money. So the fact that you're going to get them VAT-free is a huge deal. So,
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, and we're working with you guys, and our customers can come direct to us, and we will refer to you guys, and vice versa. This is a partnership that we're obviously building on a lot over the next 12 months. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
there's a lot more to come. And we've got our heat pump in our Chelsea showroom, and we're looking to get our heat pump. Well, we haven't got a heat pump at our head office in Stockport, but we'll be getting that replaced this summer. So lots of exciting things happening.
Yeah, and then just another note to make sure you follow. I've joined on my personal, I say personal, it's still work handle, Chief Geek, but our actual Heat Geek channel is Heat_Geek. Follow us on here.
Yes.
Lots of videos coming out as well as YouTube.
Yeah, I would highly recommend anybody watching this, if they want to follow on from this, just head to the Heat Geek YouTube channel. So much stuff on there. It's brilliant.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much, Adam. I can just see that Mr. Bayliss, or Mr. Castrads, has just joined,
I
just
saw
in the
that.
nick of time. But thank you, Adam.